Welcome to Weeks Ahead AI, where business owners learn how to use AI to save time, cut costs, and stay weeks ahead.
It's January and you don't have your company's annual budget done. Let's get it done in an hour using AI.
Boom.
Here we go. Welcome back to Weeks Ahead AI. I'm Brad. We've got Mitch and Terry with us. It's January and we're going to be a little better about being on here more frequently. Sorry.
I feel like it's been years since I've seen you guys.
I feel like we got Terry's travel schedule. We kind of have a handle on it now. So
I'm back. I am back, baby.
we should be able to do one at least every 6 weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, so today we're talking about something that really most companies, or whether you own property or whatever kind of business you're in, you should be thinking about annual budgets and kind of forecasting for the year. And maybe a lot of companies will do that, late in Q4 for the next year. But if you haven't done it already for 26, that's okay. Sometimes it's intimidating and maybe feels like a lot of work. And there's some companies we know that, we've experienced where they haven't really ever done that. And so it's like, why start now? It's always worked for us this way, or I don't even know where to begin. So we want to talk about having AI help us do that for this year.
I think in small business, I think that's that happens more than you think, where they don't see the value, or maybe it's too intimidating for whatever reason. I think there are a lot of small businesses that just don't do a budget. And for me, I would highly encourage anybody that's listening that's like, if you don't know what you're shooting at, it's really, really hard to hit it. So
yeah,
Brad and Mitch are here to make it easy for you today.
Yes, for sure. Well, like I said, if sometimes people will start this in Q4, and just because it's January, I don't think it's too late to start. It's a great time to work on it. You should have by about now, should have all of your 2025 financials complete. And so, I want to just talk about how to grab a couple of maybe the previous year's financial statements, throw it in to AI and start watching it do its thing. We kind of, as I started working and thinking about this, and Mitch, you've been using Claude a lot, we've talked about the various LLMs and kind of some of their strengths and weaknesses over the last number of episodes. But I think we felt like Claude might be one of the better ones to use for this, kind of putting together spreadsheets and doing some of that real deep analysis. And so I think for most of what we've kind of working on today, we've been using Claude, but it's not the only one. So
isn't it amazing that it's better at making spreadsheets than Copilot?
No, that's not shocking.
Is that not amazing?
Yeah. Is Copilot still a thing? I don't know if is it still around?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's still there, but this kind of highlights the importance of having access to different LLMs because they all have unique strengths, and this is one of Claude's.
Yeah. And I'll just, this whole thing to me is amazing, because if we had tried this exact exercise, 6 months ago, no way we'd have the same results that we have now.
No, I tried. It's terrible.
So, yeah. So the whole point is it's a fast changing world, and
I'd say from the outset, it wasn't, my experience wasn't just like, here, give it this and it's done. I mean, it took a little bit of back and forth, but far less back and forth than with humans if you're starting from scratch, or if you're trying to do it totally by yourself and start with a blank Excel spreadsheet. You're like, well, where do I start? So
yeah, because typical timelines for a company, right? The CFO says, let's get this process kicked off. He sends a note out to sales. He sends one to operations, and then his FP&A guy and controller start working on things and start pulling different data points together. And 3-4 weeks later, they ask you if you have your information now.
It's just a clunky process.
And yeah, you give it to them, and they plug pieces of one in first, and then they get panicked, and then they start pressuring either operations or sales for numbers based on the set of numbers they already have to see how they're going to handle it.
They forgot what assumptions you told them to make about certain expenses, and Yeah, it's a clunky process.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into it.
Okay.
Why are some reasons that the business may not have a budget? It's intimidating for some small businesses. It's just an intimidating process. How do I go about doing this? I recently worked with a business that was a pretty mature business, and really they just go, I really don't know what my sales are going to be next year. And if that's the case, that probably is the most challenging part of ever doing any of this. But go out and talk to your customers. Find out what their expectations are. You may be surprised. Whether it's positive news or negative news, you need to know that news, and your business needs to plan around it. So that's one reason, is just you're intimidated, and AI can just take the edge off of some of that intimidation.
And a lot of that's probably because they don't really look at last year's results that deep. Most of the time they're looking at, okay, how much cash is in the bank?
Right.
What do I owe? Let's pay that. Let's pay myself, and let's tackle the next problem in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so this helps create a little bit of a snapshot of where the business has been, and then they may start piecing some things together as they look at this.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a PDF here of Average Joe Pest Control, located in Crum, Texas.
Crum.
That's
great.
And so it's a very basic PDF, but what we can do is we can look at this, and then we can articulate and add a lot of information as we put the prompt in to go build this. So you can see it's got revenue split between residential, commercial, one-time, and termite inspections. It's got various costs of goods, some operating expenses. It's got your income, other income, net income, and a few key metrics.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got 3 years worth of data here.
So you got this for 23, 24, and 25.
Is it critical that I have 3 years worth of data, Mitch?
It is not.
Okay.
But the more data you have, the more clarity you should have theoretically, which should help you build a better product.
I think in general, in addition to building the budget, having some historical financials, AI is great at spotting trends as well, right? And so that may be a little more challenging for us to spot, or if you're just not used to reading financial statements and budgets and P&Ls, that I don't even totally understand what all this is. You can have, of course, AI help you explain all that to you, or break down, here's what I'm seeing in yours, or here's some trends that I'm seeing, some things you might want to pay attention to.
We've said this how many times in this on this podcast. It's like you have access to the smartest person, the industry expert at whatever you're doing. So you have a budgeting expert at your disposal. All you have to do is use them. You're not going to sound dumb. You're not going to sound, there's not a question that's stupid. Just
explain
interact.
This P&L to me like I'm not a finance person.
Yeah.
Like I'm a
Absolutely.
high school senior. Really break it down for me.
So in preparation, Mitch is doing this live here, but in preparation for this, we independently all went and sort of did this project on our own. I did it with two different businesses. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you guys did, but I'll just say that what Mitch is doing right now, 6 months ago, this thing would have just absolutely fumbled. When the minute he hits enter, it just crash out. It didn't know what to do.
Right.
And if it did, there's no way you could trust it.
You wouldn't rely on it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I did. I did a property. I took a property that I've owned for 8 or 9 years and gave it 3 years of financials. The 25 financials weren't totally done. It was through November. So, told it it's going to have to annualize the 25 numbers. And so just gave it the 23, 24, and year-to-date 25 numbers and said, I need your help building a 2026 budget for this property. And that's all I did. Threw that in there, and it's kind of similar to what Mitch is showing now in real time. But my experience was, the first thing, before it started building the budget, it came back and asked me some questions. I see you've got 4 buildings. It looks like 1 or 2 of them have leases that expire. What assumptions do you want me to make on this? And I kind of we walked through some of that. It asked me some things about my property taxes and what I expected there. So just asked me a few questions, and then it got me to thinking I should probably tell it this or that about my property as well. And from there, it ran with it, and really impressive. I mean, the first draft of it was, had some rows that weren't calculating properly, or totaling correctly, and so I had to push back on that. Of course, you can download that Excel spreadsheet that it builds and go kind of tweak all that if you need to.
Actually, you can tweak it right there in the screen.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you don't have to export it. You can edit it right there in the screen.
Wow. Okay.
So let's punch submit on this.
Okay.
So I have a three
yeah.
years of P&Ls here and need to create a budget for next year. We expect to grow our termite inspection business by 200% as we are starting to do this for developers. That should give us an increase of our residential services by 30% as we expect to convert future homeowners to our monthly services. And we'll be adding to our staff proportionately. I want to see a graphic chart at the end that displays a pie chart revenue by category for each year. Create this in an Excel sheet for me. And so there's a good chance it asks us a few questions here, but it may just start building.
My guess is, based on my experience, it's going to come back and ask you some questions. And when I did my exercise, it came back and asked me, it was 16 or 17 questions, so it was pretty thorough.
Yeah. What I like about, and again, we did this in Claude, but the other models can do similar things. But what I liked about it here is it's telling you, and this doesn't give you a lot of example of that, but mine, it was showing me the process it was thinking through. Okay, first I'm thinking about this and I have these questions. Okay, next let me start building the model. Next I want to go do some research on kind of industry or market rates in your area, those kinds of things. And so it was showing me in real time what it's doing to pull this together.
How's that increased productivity if all you're doing is sitting there watching it work?
Yeah.
Well, and part of building the Excel a file like this, if you're not used to budgeting, is you'll start building the Excel sheet and then realize, crap, I formatted this completely wrong, and now I have to go adjust how I even have this built so that it'll translate to new tabs.
Mm-hmm.
And you may spend an hour getting the format corrected and getting the spacing right and the headers and freezing certain panes and rows. And
That's definitely, I've been very impressed with the formatting that it does.
And so it's telling you what it's doing while it does it. So
Right.
recalculating all formulas in Excel, it's executed those. And here we go. What did that take? A minute?
Yeah, minute and a half.
And we had nothing before. We've got revenue.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, residential services grew by 30% and termite inspections and treatment grew by 200%.
Mm-hmm.
Cost of goods, it just increased all of them in line with revenue because we don't have it line item on cost of goods. So it's assuming that that's going to stay stagnant as the business grows. Operating expenses, it grew officer salaries proportionate to the business growing. It grew rent. It grew marketing and advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see here. We can now make some changes. So we'll add some context to this.
One of the things that it did this on my example as well. It just gave me a total for the 2026, just the entire year. I wanted to see it by month, and so I said,
Okay.
give it to me. Give me the current year you're budgeting for by month,
Okay.
and then a total.
Can
And
you
then-
add a tab for me that breaks us down by month for the current year that you're budgeting for? And then assume that officer salaries stay stagnant. Office rent and utilities should also stay stagnant. And actually, let's increase the salaries. Let's leave it like you did it. Because it didn't already, the generic P&L we created did not have wages.
Mm-hmm. So Mitch is showing off his whisper as well.
Yes, whisper.
Have we talked about that on this show?
We've mentioned it, yeah.
Okay.
but it's a great
Whisper
tool.
is an absolute must, I believe.
I find myself so often typing and then 7 words into it, I'm like, I could just be talking right now.
That
Yeah.
8x the speed.
Yeah. Well, and it'll even break down some of your stuff into bullet points for you when it needs to. It's pretty great. So now it's in the back end, it's creating separate tabs for you, or it'll be creating another tab that should have 2026 broken down by month.
Mm-hmm. You know, when we were prepping for this, Mitch, you threw out the idea of, I mean, you could do a budgeting meeting with your team. Maybe it's a CFO or controller, whatever accounting team you have, your sales, your operations guy. Get everybody in the same room. Just talk. Here's the last year's, or here's last couple of years. Kind of just talk about what you're forecasting. The sales guys kind of start piping in on what they think they're going to do, and you just take that plot. We're saying do that in a plot recording, right?
Yep.
In addition to those financials, and throw it all in there and really give it a lot more context.
And now we have by month.
There we go. That's what I like to see.
And you're right. This is a great time for the team to review this together, because your sales team may say, actually, the revenue for termite inspections isn't going to pick up until May, and it's going to come to us in big chunks. And so you could just say, now assume that the 200% growth that we're going to have in the termite inspection isn't a monthly growth. It's going to happen quarterly, and it's going to happen on the last day of each quarter. So make sure that you map the residential growth accordingly so that it doesn't scale immediately when we get the $200,000 or the 200% increase in termite inspections. It's going to be gradual.
Wow. If it catches that.
So
then-
when you use Whisper, you don't go back and edit.
No.
You just, however your free flowing thought was. If you said no, change that, do this, you just leave it all in there.
Yeah, because the LLM is going to dissect what I said and say, oh,
Understands
he
it.
didn't mean to say that.
Yeah, that's cool.
That would have probably taken me 2 minutes to type, because I would have been hitting backspace half the time while I type.
While it's doing that, I see you've got a tab down there, revenue charts.
Yeah.
Is this what you'd asked it to do a graph, didn't you?
So right here on the
there
top,
it is. Yeah.
there's your charts.
Mm-hmm.
One-time treatments, termite inspections, residential. There's 2024, 2025, and 2026.
That's cool. So while it's working on this, the other thing I've found really, really great in this budget that I worked on, this property budget, is it gave me a tab. It didn't initially give me a rent roll tab. I said, can you add a rent roll tab? It did that easily. But it did give me an assumptions and notes tab that it told me in this tab the assumptions that we had made together. Some of them I gave the input for, others it just made its own assumptions. And, I could look at that, easily digest it and say, okay, hey, let's change a couple of assumptions here. And rather than having to try and analyze the spreadsheet to pick out what assumptions it made, it just kind of wrote it all out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which honestly, as an operator, for the next 12 months, that's the page that you're looking at.
Yeah.
As you're running your business, you're looking at what assumptions did I make in the budget for this year? There was a new hire in the month of March that we were planning. We were expecting growth of this product line to start in April. All of those assumptions are on that front page. And in mine, through my exercise, it ended up spitting out an entire page of what those assumptions were. And so, I just think that's absolutely fantastic for any operator that's out there.
Yeah.
So what did you do? I think you did a property as well, but you also did a business.
I did a business and I did a property. And the business that I did, we had actually already done. Another person in the organization had already done the budget. I had not seen it. So I did something similar to you. I took 2 years. I loaded them into the model. I gave it a list of what my assumptions were. I had it generate it. I took it to that person who had done the other budgets, and I said, "Here, will you compare these?" And he asked me what assumptions I made. I told him to look at the front page. It had all of our assumptions on there, and I think our NOI budget at the end of the day was within 10%.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that could have been just based on the different assumptions that we made. But it took me, I did this one day in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, I could continue to tweak it and hone in on exactly and make it match his, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Then I did the property budget, and same thing. A budget had already been created for that. I don't have the results back on how close this one was. But in that exercise, when I gave it my prompt, it came back and asked me probably 15 to 20 questions that it had. So, which either tells me I didn't do a very good job explaining to it, or as it, scraped the data that I did provide, it had a lot of questions about, are you sure you want to treat this way?
Yeah.
So here's something interesting that I see that did not expect, but doesn't surprise me, is it did make an assumption in here I didn't tell it to, which was it added seasonality factors.
Mm.
And so it actually went out and researched seasonally, these are going to grow more in the middle of the year prior in contrast to like the shoulder season.
Yeah. Very few businesses are level loaded across 12 months, right? That's just not reality. So this did it without you asking.
It did it without me asking. But we did tell it we want the termite revenue to jump on the last day of each quarter. And it jumped in March, it jumped in June, it dropped in September and December. So we're going to ask it about that. I thought we said we wanted the increase in the termite inspections and treatments to reflect in the last day of each quarter. Yet I'm seeing in September and December it actually decreased. Can you explain your logic there and why you did that? So you still have to watch what it's building.
Yeah.
And you will have to correct it, and there will be some times it does some things wrong. But it's basically like looking over someone's shoulder while they're building the spreadsheet and being able to have them adjust it just way faster in real time.
To me, that's where the magic happens. I mean,
Yeah.
Once you guys break your meeting and you go back to your daily routine, your CFO goes back to his daily routine, you lose some energy. And then when you come back together 3 days later or whatever, you're starting over again.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is one of the things I love about this is we're going to do this budget and we're going to do it right now.
Yeah, and so you can see it's telling me that it applied a seasonality factor that I wasn't considering. The problem is I told them it's a developer driven, so they're doing it for new home construction, and so it caught that down here is since these are developer deals, not typical residential pest controls, they might be more tied to construction schedules and closing timelines, and so I'm going to tell them to do that.
Yeah.
Exactly. They are driven by development, and that is the current schedule of home starts, and they will all happen at that time period. So it will look lumpy on the P&L. We need you to reflect that. We also want to go ahead and add 2 expensive officer salaries in September. We're going to spend $40,000 hiring executives for the business. It should decrease our net profitability, but we're planning on doing that for growth.
So while it's working on that, just like you said, Terry, I mean, you kind of watch this thing. So I found as I started looking, I kind of download the spreadsheet and like some of these numbers just look a little off. So you gotta kind of look at it. It had some formatting issues. One of the things, like you just did, Mitch, I told it I don't want the year annualized, annualized. I want it to show me monthly, and so it did that, and it put the annual total on the far left. I just prefer to see it on the far right. So I want to see January through December, and the annual totals on the far right. Well, when it did that, it jacked up all kinds of formatting and the formulas, and so it was grabbing the next month's numbers and totaling them in the prior months. And so it was doing some weird things like that. And,
Yeah.
you know, I guess we call that hallucination in the AI world, but you know, it wasn't hard to spot, and told it to fix it, and it fixed it pretty quickly. Yeah.
Well, and I just think, to me, the message here is this is a viable tool now, where 6 months ago it wasn't.
Yeah.
This is a viable budgeting tool, and especially if you find yourself either the budgeting process taking way too long or it's way too intimidating and you simply haven't done it, this now works good enough that with human oversight, you can get yourself something. And I suspect by next year at this time, you will not have to babysit it.
Probably not.
That's my gut.
Yeah.
So it's running. There is one thing I did find in here too that we're going to fix, which is the marketing and advertising. It took the annual number and put it in for month one. So it actually shows us operating at a negative all year.
Mm-hmm.
So we can adjust that. And then it's real easy to add another tab and say, okay, I want to see a 3-year projection and I want to show it by category, or build me out a customer acquisition cost calculator based on this, assuming I'm, spending $79 to capture a customer that's spending $99 a month. You can just talk to it like that. It'll add new tabs and new calculators for you.
Yeah. Like on this, what if I hired another technician in June, or what if I hired another salesperson who tells me he could generate 27 new accounts each month? What would that look like? And kind of have it just run those scenarios so that maybe it happens in real time. You go back to your budget, and in June a sales guy comes and says, "Hey, hire me. I can do this for you this summer." Hey, what would this look like? And you can kind of have it help you determine if it's worth doing.
And the great thing is, like, when you add a complicated task, it's going to run for a little bit. It's not just completely instantaneous, because we added one factor there that doesn't seem like a big factor, but it changes probably 70 cells on this sheet. And so it just finished it. But the other thing you can do is, while it's running, you can switch to another tab and do other work and just come back to it.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch it like I did.
Correct. You don't have to, but it's pretty cool to watch.
It's kind of fun.
I mean,
So
if you're into not being as productive, you can watch it.
It increased officer salaries in September.
Yeah. Well,
but it didn't increase them in October, November, December in the sheet.
It just.
So here's the other thing that's handy that you can use when you're doing this is you can actually take a screenshot.
Yeah.
It even told me 40,000 one-time expense added to officer salaries. And this is why you use Whisper, because that took forever.
I was thinking it. I just wasn't going to say it out loud.
So, yeah.
Unfortunately, you also use the annual marketing spend for every month's marketing spend. Can you go adjust that and break it down into an annual run rate? That way it's not spending $40K a month. Oh, I didn't click in the cell before I did it.
Well, as you go through it and you do it the first year, save some of the best prompts, some of the things that you gave it or that you told it that you felt like were giving the best results, and kind of keep those stored somewhere where you can just quickly do that again. Or you can probably go right back into the same chat and say, all right, here we go, 2027 now, remember what you did and let's do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I like to take last year's P&L. I also like to take last year's budget that we said we were going to have and then have it perform a comparison for me, and then use it to help me plan for what I should be budgeting for the next year, then build the budget.
Mm-hmm. Well, as it's finishing this up, I guess I just want to kind of wrap up. Like we said at the beginning, it's just one more example of ways that we're kind of thinking about using AI and helping us streamline. It's certainly This would help someone be more productive and do things in a much quicker manner. But I think the cool thing about this particular example we're given is this might help you do something you're not even doing that you should be doing. You know, kind of get you over that hump of doing something that you might be a little intimidated to do and really not sure where to start.
You interested in hearing a downside?
Sure.
You want to hear a downside to this?
To doing a
right.
budget?
Well, no, to doing it in everything that we just showed you here. I think to those who have listened, we've used how many different LLMs to do specific tasks.
Right.
So this is a very cool thing that we're showing you today, and we've shown you some other cool things, but we've found ourselves bouncing around from different models. Gemini works better for this type of project. ChatGPT, I don't know if it's better at anything other than being fast.
It gives you very nice compliments.
It gives you very nice compliments.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I can think of 4 or 5. So I had been using a free version of Claude, and for this exercise, I had to buy the subscription. So now I have how many subscriptions?
Yeah.
But y'all want to hear something really cool?
Let's hear it.
We have a fix for that.
Oh,
It's-
yeah.
It's coming up soon. But in business, this is the thing, is how do you take all of these things and how do I condense it into something that makes sense? That's a tool that I can use for my business without my just costs spinning out of control. I can only assume there are businesses out there who have employees coming to them on a weekly basis saying, I'd like the company to pay for this subscription. How about this subscription? How about this subscription? How about this one? And pretty soon you look up and it's real money.
Yeah. We are very close. We've talked about our Relay Hub product in previous episodes, and we're very close to having something ready to go. If you want to beta test it for us, we're just
good.
about that point. Yeah, it's cool.
It's going to be really cool.
Okay, well, there's your full Excel sheet opened in Excel.
I think
And-
we've been at this maybe 30 minutes all in, and this is pretty impressive, really impressive.
And it's got formulas in there as well. So you want to adjust something, you can go in there and make changes, and it'll still compute for you. So if you decide to delay your key hire until December, then it'll adjust all your P&L through December.
That's awesome.
For me, spreadsheets, I like spreadsheets, but I like them a lot more when there's something already built that I can kind of start tweaking. I hate building them from scratch. I know other people really love that, but for me, I want something that's there and I can start tweaking it. And that's one of the coolest things about this. You didn't have to start from that first cell to start figuring out how you're going to pull this thing together. It built it for you.
I agree. And I told Mitch this morning offline, I'm like, I really love the way that it puts 23, 24, 25, and then your 2026 budget right there. Mm-hmm. That's just something that he didn't ask for that. Intuitively, it knew to do that, and it's a good employee.
Yeah.
It is.
It really is.
Well, we'll have to go. Let's see if we can buy this Average Joe pest control company. It's got some potential, it looks like. Well, thanks for joining us today. This has been fun. Hope you've gotten something out of it. We're just always looking for ways that we can use this to be more productive or get some things done that we're not already doing. Maybe we should be doing. So hopefully it's got you thinking kind of along those same lines. We will be back again soon. Thanks for joining us today on Weeks Ahead AI.